Nirvana. One of the best bands ever. Yes, yes, yes. No one who's arguing with me. Surely, no one has topped them since. Has anyone topped Nirvana? Has anyone written a better song than a Nirvana song ever? I don't think so. I know. I'm joking. Nirvana's one of my favourite bands. And I just saw on a channel called Loudwire, which is a music channel on YouTube, they've released a video 22 hours ago called Kurt Cobain's Legacy 30 years later. I haven't watched it yet, so I just thought I'd do a reaction video, watch it together, and see what we think, see if it's any good, see if it's any cop. Without further ado, let's have a look at it.
Hi, I'm Kurt Loder with an MTV News special report on a very sad day. Kurt Cobain, the leader of one of rock's most gifted and promising bands, Nirvana, is dead, and this is the story as we know it so far.
I remember seeing that at the time. It's only just started, so I'm not going to get into it yet. But all I'm going to say, it brings back memories just seeing that little clip there. It probably does for you too if you're an old bugger like me.
Generation has that one unforgettable death that you look back on later in your life as where were you when so-and-so died? For the baby boomers, JFK. For the hippie generation, John Lennon. And for Generation X, it was Kurt Cobain. April 8th, 1994, a day the music world stopped. Kurt Cobain, the poster boy for a generation and a cultural icon that transcended music, had died. It was clear that Kurt's mental health really suffered through the spotlight and pressure Nirvana's sudden rise to fame brought him. It's now been 30 years since Kurt's death, and there hasn't been a band that has eclipsed Nirvana in impact, legacy, or power since.
Oh, totally agree with that. I don't think there has. I don't think there's been a band that has come along that has blown things apart anywhere near the way they did. Now, I am, granted, just a total Nirvana fanboy, but, you know, I love loads of other bands. So it's not like they're the only band in the world I ever listen to. Like, I love loads of bands. Loads of modern bands. I love the Idols, for example. But I just don't think there's been anyone that's captured people the same way Nirvana did. Well, maybe they just come along at the right time. You know, things just worked out. Everything just fell into place. It was like this big magical thing that happened, and it just seemed to captivate everyone. I remember walking around in, like, when I was a teenager in like 1991, 1992, and it was just everywhere. Flannel shirts, ripped jeans, people with bleached blonde hair. It's just the thing. It was cool, you know. And I don't think I've seen a band come along since where the look of the singer took over quite in the same way. I suppose you could argue like Marilyn Manson, maybe. There's a lot of Marilyn Manson fans, but it wasn't on the same scale. There was a lot of people who obviously dress up as goths and stuff like that, which is totally cool. But it's not on the same scale. Not bigger than. Something quite unique, I say.
So what made them, and particularly its main songwriter Kurt Cobain, so great?
I mean, it was genius and changed the musical landscape forever. End of story.
Before Nirvana, there was no way that you could be in a punk band and be famous and make money. When they came out, it just changed the landscape of everything.
That was the big one. A whole new style from another place in the United States. A major statement.
Listening to that first demo tape, it blew my mind. It was like so much more fully formed. Kurt's voice was so commanding and so soulful.
It changed.
That's the thing with Nirvana. I think it is his voice. There was something about the emotion that he could convey in his voice that just really connected with a lot of people. It was just that grit he had. It wasn't like a shit grit that you'd get in a lot of bands that tried to kind of mimic him afterwards. You know, bands like, I don't know, Creed and Puddle of Mud and God knows. I mean, there was countless male singers who were trying to do that. Yeah, ah, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Doing that the croaky thing. But the thing with Kurt is it wasn't a show. It was literally him just singing it with as much power and emotion, and just like complete abandon that came across as really genuine, which is why I think a lot of people connected with it. It was the authenticity of it, the apparent authenticity of it that I think hooked people way more than like many imitators just couldn't do and haven't done since.
The game changed the way you could sound.
You hear the truth in a way that it's put
Alicia Keys speaking on Nirvana.
forth, and you feel like you know what they're talking about.
Nirvana to me was the most significant thing since the Beatles. I loved him. He was amazing.
By 1991, MTV and the record industry as a whole was still pumping out the hair metal formula of poodle-haired, naked-wearing men in tights singing about chicks over cheap pop songs and distorted guitars. A new generation of kids were clamoring for some sense of authenticity, and that fall, they got it, with Smells Like Teen Spirit and Nirvana's breakout album, Nevermind.
There was sort of an air of desperation, possibly. There was just a whole bunch of music that kids couldn't necessarily relate to.
That was great because it got rid of all those guys with the hairspray and the leotards.
Just like, who are these guys that are changing music? I had never heard anything like it before, and it was so compelling. It must have been similar to what it was like when people first heard Led Zeppelin or the Beatles.
I had all the kind of elements of all the punk stuff that I'd grown up on, and all the
Bush, do you remember them?
Of the really good melodies, which are sort of timeless, and the kind of passion and energy with which was the only way I thought that you should play music.
Nirvana specifically affected the culture by really bringing punk rock to the world, you know, and his interpretation of what punk was.
It was brilliant.
Yeah, damn right. It made it feel like we could all do it. We could all just pick up a guitar, and it didn't matter how well you could play, as long as you could like put a tune together of some sort. Like we could all do it. Remember that energy around that time of that feeling. It was just like, it doesn't matter. Like, just do it. There was a freedom to it, which was really, really cool, and a great like spirit. I don't want to use the word spirit. It just smelled like Teen Spirit everywhere, man. Like, everyone was just like, it wasn't, you know, there was a lot of crap going on in the early 90s as well. Like, it was a hard time. There wasn't much money about and stuff like that. In my circumstance anyway, like, it was, you know, it was tough times. And music was the escape. And then to also be into playing guitar and to see a band who you love playing and having some sort of success, which just gave hope to so many people. It's just like, we can do this, you know, and that spurred off countless careers. You got all these famous people on there talking about how they've been inspired by it. It's incredible that all that has come out of like one man's brain originally, and it can affect so many other humans. It's incredible, isn't it? Like John Lennon the same, and with Paul McCartney, working with Paul McCartney, like it's really quite incredible. 30 years later, people are still finding them and getting into it and understanding and finding that same kind of enjoyment and passion that people were finding when it first came out. It's fantastic, isn't it? It's so freaking cool.
You know, very talented, honest voice in a very corrupt media. Nirvana is a band in my mind that never compromised. They said, here it is, and we're always ready for you to leave it.
He wrote these really, really simple songs, and he's a great lyricist. His objective was really like make the song as catchy and memorable and simple as possible. The idea was not even to talk about music, to keep it as pure as possible.
It seemed like a really challenging idea at the time because we were playing punk rock underground clubs, and we thought it would be really funny to test that out on those kind of people to see if they would be able to swallow more of a clean pop, you know, sound, and see if we can get away with it.
They wanted to believe that Kurt Cobain would roll out of bed, take some drugs, and write a fucking classic. Kurt Cobain, as a lyricist, as a songwriter, as a visionary, was a fucking assassin. And he let people believe that he was the guy who was like, oh yeah, you know, I mean, I see you think they're long before.
I don't think he had any power over what people believed. He had no power over what people were writing about him. It's just that's what was written about him at the time, you know, and that image of him being this kind of messed up freak who just writes these incredible songs. I mean, of course, loads and loads of work goes into that, and the amount of practicing you have to do to be. The thing that Kurt was really good at, really good at, is the melodies that he came up with, vocal melodies for going over the simple riffs that he would write. And they're not all simple. Some of his guitar stuff's really quite brilliant. But I think it's where his genius is at is the melody writing and his lyrics. Combination of the abstract, surreal lyrics with the just sometimes just absolutely beautiful melodies over the visceral guitar was just a killer combination. And like Billy Corgan just said, he was an assassin. But it was like it had this image that he just completely, just kind of, you know, it just fell out his arse, like just stumbled upon it kind of thing. No, there's no way you can't produce what he produced without putting in a ton of work and really ton of dedication and really wanting it, because that's constant hammering, playing the guitar, working on the melodies, working on the lyrics over and over again, you know. And of course there's a massive element of like he you know, just had the gene, you know, that enabled him to do that. But a lot of work goes into it as well, and he needs the credit for that. You know, he should be credited for that. He would have probably shunned it at the time, you know. He's been embarrassed by it because it wasn't cool punk rock to be like that. But any musician, any musician worth their salt who's any good has put a lot of time and effort to getting that good, even if they sound really like stuck together with sellotape and blue tack. If it's conveying an emotion and it's working, there's some work and thought that's gone in there, I think. Anyway, what do you think?
That he sat in a fucking basement trying to figure out, why does this chord go with this chord?
Such a crappy guitar player. But I thought he was a great songwriter.
Listen to Nirvana's early demos, listen to Nirvana's first album, listen to the second album. His voice is changing. It's not just changing physically, he's finding the character of Kurt Cobain.
You can hear his voice now in the last chorus. It's starting to get pretty shot. He's been going so hard through the song, pushing so hard. Sounds like his vocal cords are starting to come right out of his throat. Especially when he gets to a denial.
There's a good three layers of vocal on that. So, like, if you're not into recording music and stuff, maybe you don't realise that what you hear there, that's not just him singing one time. That's layered. That's him singing it once, singing it again over the top, and then singing it probably a third time over the top. So it's layered up. So you're getting all that distortion in his voice, getting layered up, and you get all the harmonics coming out. It just get that awesome sound. But yeah, that's from layering up the vocal. Don't get me wrong, it sounded great when he just did a one track take. Like, you listen to him live, it's excellent. But to get that real Smells Like Teen Spirit, yeah, I can't even do it. Distortion to sound like that is a couple, at least 2 layers of vocals.
The sound of his screaming, especially on something like, let's see, like
Another genius.
Apprentice or something like that. Such a complete celebration of insanity type scream, you know. It's just a wonderful sound. When I listen to it, I think about what it must have felt like to feel that sound coming through you.
Nirvana's Nevermind was released in September of 1991. It wasn't an immediate smash, but built up momentum thanks to the Smells Like Teen Spirit video. 4 months later, it finally hit #1, and by then was selling 300,000 copies a week.
The projection for Nevermind would reach 50,000 copies, and that was based on the fact that Sonic Youth's Goo album had sold 100,000 or so to that point. And we felt that if Nirvana could do half of what Sonic Youth had done, that would be success.
Nevermind wasn't just an album, it was a movement. Not only did it displace Michael Jackson at #1 on the album charts, but it completely changed the framework of modern music.
It's never been a main goal of ours. You know, we really don't care about anything like that. We just want to put out a good record. Hopefully, the people who liked our first album would like this one also.
It was clear that a new revolution in music was beginning, and this new angsty, authentic sound was proof positive that substance and sales could coexist. In a span of 6 months, Nirvana had went from struggling to sell out clubs to headlining music festivals. But sometimes it can be dangerous to achieve your dreams.
What must have been mad just playing small clubs, and then like your album comes out and it just starts blowing up, and then you're going around playing the small clubs, and then you just see them get more and more packed, and people like knowing the words and stuff to the songs, and you start playing these bigger shows, and then you're playing big festivals, and it all happens so quick, and then you're like the biggest band in the world. It just must be. I just can't imagine what that must be like. Have it so quick, like a switch getting flipped. So 1 minute, pretty much unheard of, and then album comes out, and that's it. The snowball's rolling down the mountain.
Think about interviews.
Right, what do I think? Did you hear my reaction when he asked me if I wanted to do one?
Yeah.
I said, fuck no.
I think maybe in a situation where all these people want a piece of you, where you're being pursued by tabloid newspapers, to be in these weird situations might drive one to extremes. When that around you is so excessive, the money, the attention, the hype, the hysteria. Also, a lot of people, they're brilliant and they're very sensitive, and perhaps they're not ready for the brutality of mass acceptance. And that's the word that describes it best.
Brutality of mass acceptance. Henry Rollins, man. He's got the bars. Oh, it's just, oh man, it's just sad, isn't it? Sad what happened.
That type of success, it's very stressful. And you feel yourself slipping away in some fashion.
As an artist raised in the ethically suffocating punk rock underground, conditioned to reject conformity, to resist all corporate influence and expectation, where do you go? How do you deal with that kind of success? How do you process going from being one of us to one of them?
It brought home to me, as many things have in my maturity, the fact that this is a very dangerous business. It's very dangerous for the practitioners.
He had so much to give, and he had so much left to write. And I think in a way, and I don't mean this speciously at all, that I think he was the closest that his generation came to a John Lennon, in that, you know, he was writing very much from the heart, very directly, and he didn't play according to the rules.
By the time of Kurt's death in April of '94,
the thing with Kurt, and I don't know, no way of knowing if it's true or not, but it's just the way it seemed, is it's like never seemed false at any point. I never got a sniff of it just being like an act, like you would get like with hair metal bands and stuff like that. You know, there was a sense that they were just out to get girls or for the money, to get a big mansion and stuff like that. Kurt just had none of that bullshit, and I think that's one thing that really attracted me to it. To him and the band. Authenticity is the word. It's just authentic.
Musical landscape and culture in general had seismically shifted in just 3 years since Nevermind took the world by storm. But little did Kurt know the impact he'd make on music was only in its infancy. Nirvana's influence can be seen in the continued success of alternative and indie music and the ongoing exploration of new sounds and perspectives. More than just a band, Nirvana became a symbol of rebellion and truth, and continues to leave a lasting legacy on music today.
It's easy to forget how kind of revolutionary they were. On one hand, he was very savvy, and he knew how to work the music machine and how to be successful. But at heart, he was a very sensitive punk rocker who wrote great songs and knew how to make his guitar sound like a building falling down.
It's not rock-inspired punk bands. A lot of what got big, especially through Nirvana, was punk-inspired rock bands.
Kurt was attractive to a lot of people, to a lot of young people who were maybe a bit confused about their place in the world. Because I think they saw him and they heard his music, and they heard somebody who was equally confused and unsure of their place in the world.
He was, he was a reporter in a way. He was
I agree with that. I agree with that. A lot of young teenagers and stuff felt like they were being spoken to. There was something in the sound of the music that sounded like the way they felt, like a description of, like if you could take how you was feeling, turn it into a sound, it would sound like Territorial Pissings.
Was writing about himself any more than John Lennon was or Bob Dylan. And he took all of this stuff and he made it sound like he was singing about you.
Kurt Cobain was just genuinely one of those freakish talents that only come along once in every great while. And he left the world at his zenith.
I just focus on the fact that he totally changed my life. I mean, he brought real music into the charts and onto the radio.
It was permission for all of us to have the right to pick up an instrument and create, regardless of your skill sets or your talent.
His message was for a specific group of tormented people that he knew were out there that were struggling, and he knew that if he could reach them in a way that there were a lot of them waiting to hear it, you know, and he was right, you know, he knew all along.
Kurt Cobain's legacy is that there's nothing cooler than being true to yourself. In a world where our idols are dolled up, carefully crafted, larger-than-life figures, there was nothing
cooler than being true to yourself. I think that's damn straight. It's like be an individual and be true to that. Whatever your freak is, you know, let your freak flag fly and be proud of it, kind of thing. Don't all have to be the same. We don't all have to conform. We don't all have to have the same ideas about things. Like, we can all be different. And in that, there is beauty, and in that, you'll find new, interesting things. It's when everyone tries to be the same and hold the same ideas, and things get a little stale, a little bit boring.
Particularly special about him, and that's what made him so appealing. Kurt has become Generation X's icon and really the last real rock star. His star burned briefly, but burned intensely.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty cool. It was not too long. It'd have been nice if they went into a bit more of like how maybe their influences have affected bands that are about today. Like maybe highlighted some bands that are about today that have been influenced by them. Or maybe that would have been interesting. But you know, in general, I thought it was quite an interesting video. Nice just to reminisce a little bit. Just to think 30 has it been 30 years? I mean, it has, isn't it? It's 2024. Jesus Christ. Mad. It's so mad. Like, because that time, 1994, like when he died, I can remember that like it was yesterday when I found out what happened. As I'm sure loads of people can probably remember. It's the same as like, where was you when you heard about the World Trade Center getting attacked? Anything kind of significant in your life, for like, you know, if you loved the royal family, then when Princess Diana died, you probably remember where you were when you heard that happened, you know? That you just do with these kind of things. His legacy will live on. His daughter's going to be okay forever. You know, she's probably got, you know, as far as money goes and stuff, she'll never have to worry, which is, you know, which is nice that he managed to secure the future of his offspring forevermore. And probably her offspring and the offspring of their offspring for eternity. I think their bloodline's going to be okay forever, probably. But, yeah. Nice. What did you think? Let me know down below what you thought of the video. And how you feel about Nirvana and what happened with Kurt. Do you think we'll ever see another band come along? Is the system set up in a way now, the music business set up in a way now where another band could come along and could do the same sort of thing? Or is online music, streaming, the way music is shared these days, has it just made that completely impossible? Let me know down below. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video. I know everyone says it, but it does actually really help. Subscribe to the channel if you would be so kind. And obviously, if you didn't like the video, give it a thumbs down, and that will be equally noted. Thanks for now, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care.